Hello, welcome back to my channel, and today is going to be a super short little sewing tutorial. If you follow me on Instagram, or if you know me in real life, you probably know that I really like hair bows. I wear them pretty much every day. And I thought it would be fun to show you how I sew different little hair bows with scraps of fabric that I have so that they can match other pieces of clothing that I've made. And yeah, I just find that hair bows are a perfect little something to add to just about any outfit that has some sort of vintagey vibe, and even some that don't have vintagey vibes. So yeah, let's just get into the sewing. The first thing you'll need is, of course, fabric, and whatever fabric you want to use is fine. You'll also need a needle and thread, at least that's what I'm using. You don't have to sew it, you can just use glue if you're feeling lazy. You'll also need some sort of clip that you can use to actually put the bow in your hair. I just used these clips that I got at the thrift store. I got like 20 of them for $2 or something. And last, of course, a pair of scissors. You're going to want to start by deciding how big you want the bow to be. It doesn't really matter what size, as long as it covers the clip that you're using. So just take out your fabric, and I like to put the clip on the fabric to see how big I want the bow to be in comparison. You don't have to measure, you can just guess, but I went with about 4 inches. Then you'll want to double whatever that length was, so for me that's 8 inches, and then add another ½ inch, and this will account for the seam allowance. Then do the same thing for the height of your bow. I believe I went with 2½ inches, then double that and add another ½ inch. Then, because I'm pretty much the worst at cutting straight lines, I like to just cut a little nick in the fabric and then rip along it.
You poor fair, come Josephine in my flying machine going up.
Then the only other piece you need is the little piece that goes around the bow. For this I like to just eyeball it, so just make it about twice the width that you want it to be plus a little seam allowance, and long enough to wrap around the center of the bow. Now that you've got your 2 pieces, take the biggest piece and fold it in half long ways with the good sides facing together. Then sew along the longest edge. You might be able to see here that I was having a bit of a hard time because my needle was pretty thick and also quite blunt. So make sure that you have a nice sharp and thin needle, or whatever is appropriate for the fabric you're using. Once you're done sewing, you should have a tube that looks something like this, and you'll want to turn it inside out, or I guess right side out, or whatever, so the seams are on the inside. Then flatten the tube so that the seam is going right through the middle. Then fold it in half so that the seam is actually on the outside, and then sew along that edge. So you're basically making a tube out of a tube. Oh, and don't stab yourself, because I did and it wasn't great. Then, once you've sewn across, flip that tube also inside out, or right side out, or whatever. Then, once again, flatten your tube with the seam centered. Now that that's done, set that piece aside and we'll make the next piece. I cut my smaller piece a little bit shorter because it was just a little bit longer than necessary. For this piece, you're going to make one more tube, just fold it long ways with the good sides together and sew across. Then you're also going to flip this tube right side out, and this is a little bit tricky because it's so small, but just take your time, it is possible. Now back to the bigger piece, you're going to want to gather it in the middle and then wrap the smaller tube around the center. Now just sew it in place tightly around the middle of the bow. This part doesn't need to be super duper clean because you're not really going to see it. Once that's done, it should look something like this. Now cut the excess off of the back. You'll probably want to just glue the bow onto the clip, but I was too lazy to get the glue and I didn't want to heat up the glue gun, so I ended up sewing it on. The way I did this is there's a hole on each end of my clips, so I just sewed through those and caught a little bit of the bow fabric underneath. Then I also did a few stitches around the middle of the clip. And that's it, the bow is ready to wear. So I hope you enjoyed that little how-to. And I hope you have fun making your own little hair bows. By the way, real quickly before I sign off, I have this email right here that you can send me some strange vintage/antique fashions to react to in videos. It can be anything from some weird Victorian hat or some weird 1960s avant-garde outfit that looks like an optical illusion. I don't know, whatever you want. I would appreciate if you send me links instead of just the photo, but if it is just a photo, that's fine too. So yeah, that's just about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment, rate, subscribe, and all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! A little something to an outfit. Love when the phone rings when I'm filming.
In the ceiling, oh high, hoopla, we fly to the sky so high.